And it looks like we should be live. Just giving it a few minutes to give a couple more folks a chance to jump in. So you guys be thinking about what you want to talk about and leave it over in the comments. And we are simultaneously streaming here on YouTube as well as on Rumble. Who do we have in here? Drop me a comment. This is one that I actually was able to schedule a little prior to. I'm sure some of you guys probably seen the notice. I posted it out in a couple of places, and I just wanted to try to give it a little bit of a heads up. That's the big challenge for me, is being able to schedule things ahead of time. That is, my challenge, I guess you could say, something that I've still got to overcome. You guys let me know how it sounds and if everything is coming in clear. I'm curious about that. I can't really see or hear how it sounds. All right, I've got a couple people in here. Who do we have? Drop your name over here. I can see that there's a couple of folks here, but I can't see who it is. I'll have to leave that up to you guys. I'm curious about if any of you guys have been deer hunting this week. I know that there's a lot of folks around me that has been basically their week. They've been deer hunting, and there's been a few nice bucks that I've seen that I've had friends that have taken. And I've not been deer hunting myself since I was a kid, but I thought about getting back into it. But the only thing is, I don't really want to take one if it's more meat that I can. There's just not, again, with everybody around me taking deer, there's plenty of deer meat to go around. So it does not depend on, I guess you could say, I don't depend on deer meat to eat. Hello, hello. I see a couple of folks in here. Yeah, there's been a lot of folks that have taken some deer, taken deer or have taken a deer in my area. In fact, I was coming home from work Friday. One of my neighbors, he had a nice buck in the back of his truck, and I'll have to say it was very nice. It was a very nice buck, and he had taken it just earlier that day, and I think that he may have actually taken it for somebody. He was giving it away, if I remember right. I don't think he was keeping it for himself. Let's see. The Kimber 45th anniversary model. I have not. I would like to get my hands on one of those, but I have yet to be able to. And the Kimbers, I really like what they are doing with the new guns that they've come out with. I think that they're doing everything they can. They understand the reputation that they have had among some, But with what they are doing with the changes, I think that they are jumping way ahead, and I really look forward to it. Eventually, I'm going to get one or two models. There's a couple that I'm looking at, but as you can imagine, if you've seen the prices of the new Kimbers, they're not cheap. I do plan on getting one at some point, just don't know when. I actually had one of the Gen 2s in my hands. We were down in the Smokies a couple weeks ago, and down there, if you guys have ever been down there to Smoky Mountain Knife Works, they have got some hardware down there. And one of the things that they had in the case, they actually had a couple of the new Gen 2 1911s, and finally had a chance to get my hands on one. And man, those things are smooth. You can tell a major difference, a major upgrade between what the newer ones are compared to the older generation, which not saying that there's anything wrong with the older generation. I'm a Kimber fan, but the new ones, you can tell that they have paid closer attention to the QC, to the fit and finish, and man, they really look nice. The 2K11s, I know that those are a big thing too. And I would love to get one of those 2K11s and maybe some point in the future, but right now the price of those things, I don't see them coming down just because there's so many people buying them. But at the same time, that price, that's a budget biter for those. I mean, you look at some of the prices on them, and I'm not going to mention any prices. I know you guys can easily go and look those up, but they are above what I would comfortably want to spend. Let's just put it that way. And I know there's people out there comparing them to Staccatos. I actually heard one guy who owns several Staccatos talk about that he thought that they were actually better than some of the Staccatos as far as their fit and finish, and an actual better value than what you could get from some of those. But everybody's got their opinion on them. Mine, I'd love to have a couple of different models of them. I'd like to have. There's a couple of the 2K11s I'd like to have, and then definitely the stainless Gen 2. That new Gen 2 1911. I would love to have one of those. Maybe some point in the future. That Gen 2 is probably going to be the first one that I get at some point. I just don't know when. Right now, with Christmas and everything coming up, the gun fun is going to be slowed down just a bit, if you know what I mean, for obvious reasons. Who else do we have out there? I see there's a few more folks that have joined us. We're here just to chat. I really didn't have a topic for today. Just thought that we'd come on here and just see where it goes. I know that the new Glock Gen Vs, I'm sure some of you guys have seen some of the videos on them as far as how they are. I know that there's been a few folks out there. Lenny has done one down at the Glock store. He's done a video where he was detailing some. There's been a few others out there that have done some videos on them, showing some of the differences. And I am glad that they didn't do anything extreme. I think that what they did is very subtle. Obviously, it would be considered basically a simple upgrade. And I think I hate the Glock bent the knee, but I understand at the same time, they're going up against a government that has endless resources when they have a limited amount of resources. So that's why Glock has done what they've done. I don't like it, but I understand it. And at the same time, I'm glad that they did not go crazy with the changes that they made. So I haven't had my hands on one, but from what I've seen, I don't think that there's, say, enough changes really for anybody that's already on the block, unless you just want to, unless you're just a collector or whatever, and you just want to go out and grab the newest thing out there. Which I thought about it myself, but not yet. However, and this is a caveat, if my friends over at Shark Coast Tactical come out with anything cool, there's a chance I would pick one up just because I like what Will and those guys do. In fact, I did see where they had gotten some in too, and I told them, I said, I look forward to seeing what you guys can do with them. And for those of you guys who are a follower of my channel, they're the guys that built my Glock 45 Templar. Love that gun. That is just an absolutely just a great gun. It's a Glock 45. It's the Templar edition. Really love that gun. I don't carry it very often, but I have carried it. In fact, that was my carry gun on Easter Sunday, believe it or not. And almost wore it in a shoulder holster, but I just used my traditional strong side outside the waistband holster. Had it underneath my jacket, and still, I love that gun. It looks great. A lot of the ones that Shark Coast Tactical has done, I'll have to say, have been tremendous. I like it. So, what's some other topics out there? Anything interesting that you guys want to talk about? Because there again, this is not just my time, this is your time. Curious to hear from you guys. And I know there's a slight delay between what I see and what you hear. And I see that we also have someone over on Rumble. Who do we have? Leave me a comment. Drop your name. Say hello. I'm just curious. Who do we have here on Rumble as well? Now, don't be ashamed. Don't be afraid or anything like that. I'm the one that should be. I'm just the guy that's behind the camera, just chatting. We've got a few more folks joining in on the chat, and I'm glad to see it. Okay. Cutting out just a bit. Don't know why. That's one of the things that I have struggled with forever. I've got a new microphone. I should say new. It's one that I picked up about a month or so ago. And I know that part of the problem potentially could be some of the filters that I've got using OBS. There again, I'm not an audio guy. But hopefully, I'm just going to see if I can tweak it maybe just a bit. Hopefully, it doesn't mess anything up, but you just never know. But you guys let me know if there's any changes. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to get rid of this one noise filter that I'm using. And just to see, I don't know. You guys can let me know. Hopefully, it's going to work a little better. You notice any changes? Glock 45 or Glock 19? That's really going to depend on which one feels the best in your hands. I love both of them. And if you're wanting something that's a little bit more concealable, my personal opinion is that the Glock 19 is going to be just a little bit more concealable than what the Glock 45 is, but not by much. Me personally, I regularly carry a Glock 45. I like the extra capacity. Plus, with my hands, the size of my hands, I have a great grip. Even though I love a Glock 19, I've got the one that I actually was carrying a couple of weeks ago. It's my Gen 4 that I've had for over a decade, and shows the battle worn finish. Still carry it occasionally. So it just really depends on what you're wanting to do, how comfortable you are. With the cooler weather, obviously, I'm going to be carrying my Glock 45. Probably carry it more than I do my 19s now, but I still do carry my 19s. But again, I would get my hands on both of them and just decide. If you're trying to decide which one to go with, get your hands on both of them and go from there. And again, I know one thing too, and it's just kind of a shout out, but get rid of those factory sights. Get a set of XS Big Dots. Use my code, and it'll help you to get a little bit better sight picture. Be careful of what I say and what I do here, because the fact that YouTube, I don't want them to shut it down. But if you've been a follower of my channel for a while, Steel Boy, I see you there. Go check out some of the videos that I've did on XS sites, and I've got information there that could be helpful to you. And but anyways, it is up to you. That's probably the easiest way to say it. It's going to be a personal preference. And I can't really say which would be better for you. Thanks. I appreciate your answer. I see where you said, and I'll just keep rambling just a bit. But again, it's a personal preference, how the gun feels in your hands, how comfortable it is for you to carry. I would rather you carry a Glock 19 than to not carry a Glock 45, or the other way around. It really depends on what you're comfortable with. Get your hands on both and shoot both. The only advantage, I guess you could say, well, I'm not going to say advantage, but one difference that I do want to throw out there is magazine interchangeability. You can take the magazine from a Glock 45 and run it in a Glock 19 because it's just a standard Glock 17 mag, but you cannot run a Glock 19 magazine in a Glock 45. It just won't work. The magazine is too short, but I'll just throw that out there. But either one, I mean, they're both a great gun. Now, today I was carrying a Glock 45. That was my carry gun for today. Who else do we have out there? Ruger American. I see you there, David. Sorry it took me so long to get to you. As far as the Ruger American and 45 ACP, Ruger is making some great pistols. I've not personally shot one. However, based upon the reputation that Ruger has from the ones that I have shot, I would say that they would be a very good gun, a very good firearm. Now, again, that's a caveat. Remember, I have personally not had my hands on one. I'm basing my opinion completely on my previous experience with Ruger, which has been very positive. So I would make my decision from that. But if you can get your hands on one and try them out, I mean, again, it's one of those things where it is a reputable company, and um, with it being as reputable as they are, if I wanted one, yeah, I'd go get it. If I've got the funds and all that, then yes, I would go get it. So it's completely up to you. I know that's probably really a non-answer. Maybe one day I'll get one to maybe do a video on or something, but um, that's just a personal preference. Again, reputable company. I have a few Rugers. I actually had a Ruger SR 1911 in my hands. When was it? Just a few weeks ago. I was looking at one, just playing around with it. And if you guys have been a follower of my channel for a while, I've got a couple of the Ruger American rifles. I've got two 6.5 Creedmoors, both a Gen 1 and Gen 2. I've got an SFAR. Uh, Great guns. I've had no issues with them, except they burn up a lot of ammo. And, especially the price of 6.5 and 308. But, no problem with Ruger. I like Ruger. I think they do a great job. What I don't like is what's happening to them, which is kind of the same thing that happened to Glock. They've, kind of gotten tangled up in this nonsense with, these lawsuits and stuff like that. I know Ruger has actually been threatened as well. I'm sure some of you guys have heard that. Where Glock, the reason that they changed, basically ended production of all of the previous models was because of the state lawsuits, because of where criminals were modifying them using the Glock switches and things like that. Any manufacturer out there that is going through and making, using basically the Gen 3 clones, all of those, every one of those manufacturers are now in the same boat as Glock. Just because they're making them, there's a potential out there they could face state lawsuits and other things as well. I know Ruger's been threatened by it, and I think it's a bunch of nonsense. I don't know why Congress has not gone in and shut it down, but there again, we got a do nothing Congress. So, but yeah, it's completely up to you, man. Who else do we have out here? It's nice to have a few folks on. I tried to announce it a little bit ahead of time. How many of you guys seen the notice prior to the live stream? That's something that I'm kind of curious about as well. I sent it out probably a couple of hours prior to, and just wanted to see how it would go, hoping that it would bring a few more people in. And I'm just curious if it has, if that's why some of you are here, just because you've seen that. I know that I would do better if I scheduled it much ahead of time, if I had a regular schedule with them, but we'll just have to see. Also, guys, while I've got you here, one thing that I wanted to throw out at you. Some of you may know, that I'm an affiliate of Blackout Coffee. Linked in the description of the video. Go over and get you some coffee, and there again, if you like good coffee like I do, and it's a good way to help support the channel and also help support a pro Second Amendment company. And I don't remember where I got this cup at. My wife got it for me, I think, one year for Christmas. But it's a Second Amendment cup. I just try to show it to you. And she picked it up for me somewhere. I don't even remember where it was that she got it. But it's one that I use regularly. Well, occasionally. I get several coffee cups. So I know that some of the other stuff that's been going on recently. How many of you guys think we're going to be going to war in South America with Venezuela? I shouldn't really probably get into that political arena, but I think that's something that could potentially happen. What about my other channel? Well, for those of you guys that may not know, I have got my vlog channel. I'm not sure if any of you guys have heard of it or not. Beyond the Boom. I usually link it below in all of my videos, and that way it's just kind of crazy stuff that we do. Okay, David, so you have a Ruger 1911 45 ACP a couple of weeks ago. Felt great, very solid piece, kind of steep. I did get the notification. I am subscribed also. Glad to have you here. I'm going to try to start getting some type of a little bit regular schedule. That's the challenge for me. I never know what's going to happen. I never know what's going on. That's always my problem. And, you know, but that's kind of my problem. That's always my problem is trying to get things scheduled. And yes, the Rugers, now I have seen a lot of variation in the pricing on those. The one that I looked at a couple weeks ago, it was a carry model, the shorter 4 1/4 barrel and slide. It wasn't bad. I'll have to say it was at a reasonable price. Um, Not as high as a Kimber, probably a little more expensive than like a T-Sauce, and it was a great looking piece. In fact, I know where it still is if I ever decided to go get it, but I, I don't need to. But you're getting me thinking about it. But yes, I have seen a lot of variability in the prices on them as well. I've seen some there's no way I would get just because of the price. In fact, back several years ago, the T-Sauce carry that I have, the stainless carry that I have, when I got it, I had it and I had a Ruger in my hands literally at the same time. The price at that time was negligible. They were close enough in price at that shop at that time that I could literally have gotten either one of them. And the reason that I did not go with the Ruger at that time, the one they had there, it was a two-tone. It had the stainless slide and the black frame, and I wanted the all stainless. So that's why I broke down and actually got my T-Sauce Commander, my all stainless Commander. But I like those Rugers. There's nothing wrong with them. I love those SR 1911s. I think that they're one of the better 1911s out there that you can get. Rugers, I hit the nail on the head with those. And another thing too, you can change the grips out, and there's tons of different options out there. That's one thing about a 1911. And I've got one 1911, and I know some of you guys, if you've seen some of the videos on it, it's the Rock Island that I've got. I got a set of custom grips on it. It's got, from the Book of Psalms. I love that gun, and those grips, they look great on it. There's tons of different things as far as you can do to them, and make them your own. That's one of the things about them. Unfortunately, that shop, and I've had a few people ask me about it too. That shop, it was on Etsy, and I've actually gone back. It's been a while now, but I have actually looked them up before, and the shop is closed. They don't do it anymore. And because I was actually going to try to get them to make me some more grips, and That's how things goes. I mean, Etsy's a good platform for people that make little crafts, and you can find some great stuff over there. I've actually had my shop over there for a while before too. But who else do we have? What else are we going to talk about? Let's see here. Is the full size a stainless steel frame and slide? Are they more durable than an aluminum frame and slide? Here is a caveat to that. I would look at the feed ramp on those. What happens on those now? The ones that I've looked at from Ruger, unless it's a lightweight model, the ones that I've looked at from Ruger have been a steel frame, steel slide. They probably have a lightweight model. I know that there's different manufacturers out there. The lightweight models, if you ever see one that says lightweight, that's usually an alloy frame. And I've got a video where I talk about this too on my channel. Pay close attention to the feed ramp. And just to give you an idea of what I'm talking about, Kimbers. I love Kimbers. The Kimber lightweight I would not own for the very reason the feed ramp on it is an alloy metal as well. It is basically aluminum. Any gun, any 1911, regardless of manufacturer, if it uses just an alloy for that feed ramp, stay away from it. My personal preference, if I'm going to get one that has an alloy frame, I want it to have the ramped barrel, which means the feed ramp itself is part of the barrel. A perfect example is my Springfield Operator lightweight. It is an alloy frame gun, but the feed ramp is part of the barrel. What happens is over a period of time, if you actually take that gun out and shoot it, you're going to end up causing yourself or getting to a point to where you're going to start having failures to feed because that alloy, particularly with certain types of ammo, like hollow points, jagged hollow points, or anything like that, it is easier to scratch and to scuff up than steel. So what happens when it gets scuffed up is you're going to start getting some failures to feed. And then what you've got to do is you got to go back in and you've got to polish it. Now, some manufacturers, what they will do, and the only way to know it is if you basically disassemble the gun. I would find out before I would spend my money on any. But some manufacturers, what they have done, they would take a steel or a different type of metal. I think that I've even seen some use tungsten. But the block that is for the feed ramp, if they don't use a ramp barrel, they'll use a steel or tungsten or some other hardened metal for the feed ramp because you do not want, personal opinion, I wouldn't have one, but you would not want an alloy feed ramp on a 1911 because that's eventually going to cause you some problems. That's just something to throw out there to you. But other than that, if you have one like my Springfield Operator, alloy frame, it has the ramped barrel. There's nothing wrong with that gun. It runs great. It's a super reliable 1911. Now, I will tell you that an alloy frame 1911 is going to have more recoil than a steel frame 1911. You're going to notice it. When you press that trigger, it's going to have a little bit more of a punch. But it's not terrible, but it is something that, some people that are recoil sensitive or whatever, you may want to know about. But again, that's personal preference. I also don't think that the alloy, even though, again, I'll go back to my Springfield Operator because that's one that I have the most experience with. The slide to frame fit is very tight. I don't think that it is as tight as some other 1911s, but it is tighter than others. That's just a caveat, guys. Every manufacturer is a little bit different. You know how that is. But again, check to see what that feed ramp is. That would be the first thing that would do. Other than that, you shouldn't have any trouble out of it. But you would not be able, you could put thousands of rounds through that gun, replace every spring in it and everything else. And your grandkids would probably still be able to shoot that gun. You know, they're fine. I mean, you think about a lot of the guns out there that are alloy, the SIG P226. how many of those are out there? How many thousands of rounds have been through those things and they're still being used, still running, still going? There's no problem with them. So, if you find a good deal on one, don't be scared from it. Again, that's the only thing. Check that feed ramp. Is there a certain one you're looking at? I assume it's the Ruger, that you're probably looking at. I don't know about the Ruger as far as what it is, as far as how that feed ramp is, but I would find out before I spent my money on it. And again, me personally, if it is a ramp barrel, no problem. If it is an alloy ramp, nope, won't buy it. I don't care if it's a Dan Wesson. I don't care who it is. I don't care if it's a Nighthawk. I will not buy a 1911 that has an alloy ramped frame or ramp, feed ramp for the feed. Just won't do it. But again, that's personal preference. I hope that answered your question. I don't really know, but Ruger's great guns. Personal preference, I would probably go with the steel frame if I was going to buy a Ruger. Just again, personal preference. Anybody got any other questions? Things you want to talk about? This is your time, guys. I'm just sitting here. I think we're about to get some cold weather coming in this week too, or at least around here. I know it's been warmer last few days, but we had that real bad cold snap. I was actually sick for a couple of days. It's terrible. How about you guys over on Rumble? Y'all seem to be quiet. I see a couple of you out there. Let me hear from you. Who do we have? Is there anything that any of you guys are looking for in particular for Christmas? Any type of gun that you're hoping Santa Claus might have in your stocking when you wake up on Christmas morning? I think you've already heard mine, I'm sure. I'll go with the Kimber, the new Gen 2 Kimber at 1911. I love it. Eventually, I plan on having one. Again, guys, get you some Blackout coffee. Link below. Use my code Boomstick. Save you a couple bucks. Who all do we have left? I still see David. Steel Boy, you still out there? Who's still on here? I know there's a few still, and y'all just seem to be a little bit quiet. I guess I can go on and ramble about something. I don't really know what, but do you all think that 1911s are coming back in style? Let's just throw that out there since we've been talking about some 1911s. Do you see a time period to where they make a major resurgence more than what they are currently? My personal opinion, I believe it's very possible. I think that the 1911, especially with the newer technology, I think that you could start seeing more people carrying them again. The 2011s, I love them. I know there's people out there that do carry them for concealed carry. And I think that eventually, like with the 2K11 and things like that, I think you're going to see other manufacturers coming out with things that are more geared toward the carry market in the 2K11. I would not be surprised. I know Kimber has got their KDS or whatever it is, but I foresee the time to where you're going to really see them come out with something else geared more toward the carry market. I know the new Pro model does have the shorter slide and barrel, but you're talking a couple grand right there. And I don't know too many people that'll spend a couple of grand. Okay, thanks for the answer. I actually held a Kimber, T-Sauce, and the Ruger. The T-Sauce was used, wanted Yeah, it was a duty model, but had very little use. TSOS makes a good 1911. Um, I would say that TSOS, in personal opinion, I think for what they're putting out there. Hey, Terry, I see you. I was wondering where you were. Um, TSOS puts some amazing 1911s out there. I think that they have really brought the game down to where more people can get into the 1911 game with like the A1, which by the way, with TSOS, I don't know if many of you guys know, TSOS is actually making them for the CMP. If you were, get something to the civilian marksmanship program, they're actually making new stock that the CMP is selling. And, I thought that was pretty cool. Now, back a few years ago, I actually had the pleasure of talking on the phone with Jared, their marketing manager, the guy that you see in all of their videos and stuff. Cool guy. But when I was talking to him, he was actually coming back from Vegas, coming back from SHOT Show that year. And, he told me a little bit about that, about what was coming up at that time. And I thought it was great. I thought it was a cool thing for them. And I really like what they do. They've got some nice, great styles out there. And they've really made it affordable for a lot more folks. Kimber, I love Kimber. I've got a few Kimbers. Ruger, I don't have a Ruger 1911, at least not yet. There's every time I put one in my hands, I come close to buying one. And they're a great firearm. There's nothing I can say negative about the Ruger 1911, other than the fact that I don't have one. I guess that's the one negative that I could say. But the 1911 game, those manufacturers are really driving it home. Kimber, with what they're doing now, they've really kicked up the game as far as their quality. TSOS and Ruger, you got, again, good quality 1911s. TSOS has got it to where it's affordable for most people. And again, they're making a good 1911. I know there's people that'll go out there, and yes, you're going to get a lemon every now and then, but you figure just in the scale of things, if you make one bad firearm, if you produce 100 of them and you have one bad one, one issue, that is a failure rate of 1%. If you produce 1,000 with a failure rate of 1%, then you've got 10. And it just goes up to scale. If you go up to, tens of thousands, look at your failure rate as far as what that is. It's still the same percentage. It's just more people hear about it. TSOS did have that recall that they did for a very brief period, which, if you look into what the details of it was not anything major. Um, and nothing that people that fool with 1911s could not solve themselves. But either way, I think that they have really stepped the game up. All three of those companies: Kimber, TSOS, Ruger. For especially for the price. TSOS for the price is just amazing. Terry, how's your day been going? I'm hoping. Did you get to see the notification? I know that I sent a notification out. It's a couple of hours before I actually went live. I'm trying to actually let people know prior to, instead of me just jumping on here. And, that's one thing that I'm trying to do. But, oh well. The big thing about 1911s, we'll just jump back to the 1911 thing, is the fact that if you don't use good magazines, you're not going to have a reliable gun, as you all know. Does it bother you that some 1911s that are MEM parts, I don't know enough about them to have an opinion? Here is the story on the MEM parts. The majority of firearms on the market, even with the polymer guns and all that, will have some type of a MEM part. It doesn't bother me on them. Perfect example is Kimber. It doesn't bother me because the components that are MEM are insignificant. I shouldn't say insignificant, but they're parts or components that can be MIM, they could be other things, and it doesn't matter because they don't have any issues. That's one thing that TSOS has done as far as they know the market trend is away from MIM. I could say, yeah, I would prefer not having a MIM part, but it doesn't bother me if a gun does, especially in 1911, because there again with Kimber, the ones that I have, I've had no issues. Those MIM parts, you're talking like, your mainspring housing, a couple of other things in the gun. No, it does not bother me. If there again, it goes back to the quality of the manufacturing. If that MIM part was done right, you're not going to have problems with it. You know, injection molding parts. I mean, the cars you drive, they have MIM parts on them. So it's not no big deal to me. Personal opinion. I understand that some people just don't want any kind of a MIM part in it. And if I had the choice between two identical firearms, one with MIM parts, one all steel, no MIM parts, yeah, I would probably go with the all metal one, unless there was some feature on the one with MIM parts that I liked over the non MIM or MIM gun. It doesn't really bother me. I've got guns that are both. I have no issues with it. Personal opinion. Great, Terry. I'm glad you seen the notification. Hello, hunting and shooting stuff. J and J. Glad to have you here. We've just been kind of rambling on, but just jump in with a question, comment, or whatever. I've just been sitting here twiddling my thumbs and yakking. Just hoping that and again, I know that some of you guys are seeing a little bit of a delay. That's one thing with the live chats. By the time I see your comment and then respond, there is a bit of a delay from the time that I do that till when you actually hear it and actually see the response. I don't know exactly how long of a delay it is, but it is a few seconds. But no, I wouldn't. It wouldn't bother me. If there's a gun out there that had MIM parts in it that I want and I like the gun, I'd buy it. It's just my personal opinion. I know there's folks out there that would disagree, that don't want MIM parts. That's their opinion. That's fine. And if they've got any cool guns that have MIM parts they want to get rid of, hey, let me know. And hopefully that didn't kill the stream because there again, YouTube is weird about talking about things, certain things. Another sip of coffee. Again, guys, get you some blackout coffee. Use my code Boomstick. Save you a little bit off of blackout coffee. Terry, you ready for that cold weather coming in this week? I know you're a little further north than me, and I think it's supposed to be like 60 here tomorrow for a high. 2A hunting and shooting stuff. What do you got going on? What's your big plans? You been deer hunting? Since you're talking about hunting, have you got you a deer yet this season? Again, I've had some neighbors that have gotten some monsters. And around here, man, they really need to get them off the roadways, that's for sure. I think more have been killed on the roads than what has been from deer stands. Just driving down the road, you'll see them just on the side of the road all the time where people have hit them. Eventually, guys, I'm hoping to do some more with my backdrop here. I think it looks terrible. I'm wanting to kind of change this around a little bit. I'd like to get some lights, maybe some different color to add a little bit more flare, just some of those LED panels and things like that. And you know how it is. Yeah, I'm right there with you, Terry. I can deal with the cold much more than I can the ice and snow, also. Hunting and shooting. You live in upstate New York. Rifle season started Saturday. You haven't gotten one yet. Oh, I'm sure that you will. I know if it's anything like around here, then I'm sure they're out thick everywhere. Well, usually around here they go into hiding, but right now they're so thick, man. I mean, it's easy for people to get them. Where I'm at, my farm, it was a hunter's paradise years ago, and the deer currently they're staying over in the woods or they're staying very close to the woods, but it's very common. If you guys followed me on some of my other social media and even some of my videos, you've seen where deer have just literally been like right around where I'm at, out of my field and stuff like that. But right now they're all kind of hid. But yeah, this is a little bit of a hunter's paradise, and I love it. I keep saying that I'm going to drop one of these years, get back into deer hunting and stuff myself. But the only reason that I don't is I don't want to just shoot it and not eat it. I don't want to waste it. I don't want to waste the meat. And yeah, I could give it away. But the problem is, you got so many people around here doing that. Trust me, anybody that wants deer meat around here gets deer meat, and that's people that don't even hunt. I mean, if they want deer meat, somebody is always trying to give away deer meat. Upstate New York. I know it's completely different up there than what it is in other parts. I would actually like to visit parts of up in there. The problem is, there's two problems. One is I don't like going too far from home. That's just me. I'm a homebody. And the other thing is, there's a lot of, let's just say, lefty politics there that I just, no. In fact, I don't like going to Louisville. That's just how it is. You gonna go to deer hunting, Terry? If they're back there, full of them behind you, you do any deer hunting? I mean, I can understand if you don't because it's the same with me. They're just, I could if I wanted to, but I don't want to just drop them just a waste of meat. But I mean, yes, it is. I really think what they should do in some areas is they should extend deer season and let them get thinned out some because, man, it is nuts how thick there are with deer in some places. I mean, it's too much, and they really need to extend it a bit. Let hunters take another buck or two and just to try to help thin it out. The thing is, and I know everybody likes to go after bucks, but really the only way to slow it down some is start getting some of the does. That's where you're going to really start thinning down that population. Everybody's chasing bucks. Everybody wants to get that buck. But if they wanted to do something to get the population down a little bit, start going after those does. I understand that, Terry. I want to get back into it. I really do. I just haven't. I think the next thing that I'm going to get back into, and I know I'm going to this spring, is fishing. And you're going to probably see it in some of my upcoming videos. Um, we've got our pond. One of my neighbors come over and brought his excavator and done a bunch of work around the pond, got it cleaned up down there. I mean, I actually sowed some seed, some grass seed down there yesterday, and it looks great down there. And it's been stocked. I got that pond stocked with catfish, and I need to go down there and pull a few of them out. Let's see, 2A. Let's see, as far as a 2A up here, it's a lot better than in the city. I can certainly understand that. Rifles, shotgun, handguns, revolvers, never had a problem getting them. David, you're very welcome. I hope that I answered your question some. I don't really know. I hope that it does, at least give you a little bit to think about on them. Um, you do plan on getting a Ruger LC 380. Never been shot. Are they a reliable pocket gun? The price is hard to turn down. Um, my view on 380, and it's not going to be centered around Ruger or any of them. I know that Ruger, that 380, I am not a fan of any 380 whatsoever. The reason for that is in my classes, the concealed carry classes that I've had, the number one malfunctioning gun that has been on my range, regardless of manufacturer, has always been a 380. Just no holds bar. That has been the gun that I have seen the most malfunctions with on my range. I've seen Rugers have malfunction. I actually pulled two Tauruses. Now, one was a Taurus and one was a Ruger. It was a different one off of the line in one of my classes because they were so unreliable. Again, that's a personal preference. I know there's people out there, you're going to find people out there that just say that they love the 380, that they've never had any issues with them, and I understand that there are some out there. But my personal preference with the 380, I would personally not have one just because I have seen too many failures with them, especially if it's a gun that I'm going to carry. And with the technology that's out there in 9mm, you can get a gun virtually the same size as a 380 and have it chambered in 9mm. In fact, the class that I had where the ladies, it was a couple of ladies that came, they ended up shooting that class with one of my 9mm. The 380 that was there that remained that I didn't pull off the line, they allowed, they used it, and what she told me when they both shot this one 380, they both told me it felt like it was jumping out of their hands. I then put a larger frame 9mm in their hands, and they were much more comfortable shooting that larger frame gun and a larger caliber than they were that 380. Is it the ammo? Now, I will say that it's a possibility. The problem is that of the ones that I've seen, I've also seen a wide variety of ammo and still had the same problems. There was always a failure to feed or a failure to eject. Probably of all the failures that I've seen, probably 99% of them were failures to feed. There was a couple of failures to extract or eject. But yes, ammo is a big factor as well. But again, from the variety of the ammo that I've seen that were used in some of these guns, there were issues. In fact, one of them that I pulled off the line in that one class, we actually tried a couple of different kinds of ammo in it, and it had the exact same results. So that again, that's just my personal preference. I'm just not a fan of 380s. There's some cool 380s out there. The Browning has got a little 1911 that's designed for 380s. I won't get it just because I don't like 380s. Unfortunately, that's my personal opinion. Don't want to beat up on anybody on it, but again, and plus, if it's something that you're going to carry, I guess you could say quote or try to quote Clint Smith, they're all too big for carrying. They're never too big for fighting. And I know I'm messing up his quote. Your wife uses a 380 and it is snappy for her, but I have noticed that ammo does make a difference. Yes, ammo will make a big difference. And if she's carrying a 380, put a little bit bigger 9mm in her hand. Find one that's a little bit larger frame than what that 380 is. Put that in her hand and see how that feels to her. And there again, my experience that I've had is the fact that I've seen people that say that it feels better to them having a little bit larger frame, not much, but just a little bit larger frame and having that larger caliber. It feels better to them. That's again been my experience. Better recoil management because, that 380 that those ladies had, or one of them that they had, both of them, they swore up and down it felt like it was jumping out of their hands. I put my Glock in their hands and they had no problem. And in fact, that was what they shot the class with. But again, it's about what you train with. Personal preference. If she uses 380, if she's good with it, I'd rather her carry 380 than carry nothing. You know, but again, make sure that it is reliable. Make sure that it's going to run that ammo and that it is going to be there in the event that you need it. If it's her carry gun, make sure that it's one that works when it needs to. And I know there's a lot of different ones out there. And I know just like with everything. There's technology that's changing over the years. I know 9 millimeter used to not be what it is today. It's just I have not seen it yet with 380 on my range, my personal experience. That's just that's just me. You know, I won't carry a gun that I've not put the experience in with, put the rounds in with. I just won't do it. I have guns that I've had for some of them years. I won't carry them. They're for the range, and I won't carry them because in some cases I have shot them. I know that there's some quirks about them, and yeah, they're fun for the range, but as far as a tool that I'm going to use to protect myself, I would not trust it. Hunting and stuff, for me, I only carry full size. Smaller guns have much more muzzle flip. That is correct. And another thing too is under stress, you're not always going to have that perfect grip. And sometimes those little bitty guns, it's hard to get a good grip on them anyways. And you're going to need everything you have to, have a decent grip and do everything you can to protect yourself. Training is key. Training, 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 training. That is the key. If you have somebody that never trains, and then you take somebody that has whatever kind of gun out there that does train, the person that trains is going to have a much better chance in any kind of scenario that they're in. Simple fact. I mean, just the odds are just in the favor of those that train. That's undeniable. Training is key. Just like the debate over the 1911 versus a lot of modern stuff. Give me somebody that trains with a 1911 compared to somebody that never trains with whatever they've got. The guy that trains with that 1911 is going to be better. He would be who I would want watching my six. 10 mil. Yep. Yep. There in Alaska, I am sure. I don't blame you one bit. I've got a Glock 20. I'm sure you've probably seen some of my videos. I love 10 millimeter. The only thing I don't like is the price of ammo, especially if you get the full powered 10 millimeter ammo, which I know you know about that. A lot of the 10 millimeter ammo you get these days is loaded down. It's basically loaded down to 40 Smith and Wesson. But if you get the full powered 10 mil, oh man, that's a beautiful round. And I don't blame you. I would have plenty of ammo with me too up there in Alaska. Some of those bears. I wouldn't want to be lunch. I was actually watching a video. I don't know, I don't remember the channel or whatever, but it was this Amish family, or they looked Amish, that was up there in Alaska, and they were getting ready to go somewhere. And I mean, it was hilarious because the daughter, she was putting on, getting ready, putting on her coat and all that. They were talking on camera, and then I think it was like a 460 that she had a holster for. I mean, the gun was as big as she was, and it was like one of those chest rigs. And she had her coat on and all that and getting ready, and then she slipped that on, and she had another coat that went over top of it, and you could see it right there. I want to say it was it was a 460. I won't swear to it, but it was one of the big frame snub nose Smith and Wesson revolvers. I know that you've probably seen those before. But yeah, Buffalo Bore makes a good 10 mil ammo, but they're not cheap, and they're hard to find around here for some reason, or at least places that I usually go to. Buffalo Bore. What's some of the others out there? I know there's a few different ones. I've got some Hornady for mine that it's in 10 mil, and I've got some. Got some that I bought from, I think it was Cabela's. It's just herders, just some range stuff, some flat nose range stuff to get out and ring some steel with. And you can definitely tell a big difference in the power. Like the Hornadies that I've got, and their self defense loads, I've got some of the critical duties. The compared to like the herders, I mean, when you're shooting it, it's a daylight and dark difference. Before my shoulder surgery, I trained and practiced one arm shooting. Yes, Everybody should do that because of the fact that you never know when something happens. You should train using strong hand and weak hand. Uh, Typically, in a self defense situation, the more you train, the better off you are, especially if you're with your family. More than likely, one of your hands, especially if you got kids with you, it's going to be used to move your family out of the way. Yeah, a lot of people will have the 460, the 454, or the 10 mil. I would hope so up there with a bear. I get it. I mean, around here, I guess ever since I was a kid, we'd be out on the farm and stuff like that. We keep 22s with it just because of coyotes, plus squirrels. You never know. You'd be about cleaning out a fence row or something, depending on what time of year it was. Just drop a squirrel or two. Hornady and Underwood, yes. Yeah, there's a big difference. You know, there again, I've got some of the Hornady critical duty ammo for mine, and there's a big difference. You can feel that recoil difference between like it and then just the range stuff. But there again, I'm not going to spend. I don't typically spend as much money on range ammo as I do some of the other stuff. 10 million. Let me guess. Autocorrect got you. It gets me too occasionally. But Underwood, you can find Underwood around here in some places. Hornady is just about everywhere, and it's good ammo. I like Hornady. I actually carry it a few. Well, I carry it 9 millimeter too. It's one of them that I'll carry as a defensive load. But again, make sure the gun runs your ammo, whatever you choose. And that's one of the things too, because my Glock 20, when I took it out to the range, again, it's a Glock. I love Glocks. Everybody knows how they are, but I'm still going to run it to make sure that it's going to work. And again, using defensive loads, what I would carry and what I have carried with that gun, it was not cheap, but I ran quite a few rounds of the Hornady Critical Defense through it again, just to make sure that it's going to run. And if you've bought that stuff in 10 mil, you know what it is. I mean, it's not cheap. Have you wondered why Browning doesn't have a full size 1911 45 ACP instead of the 380? I believe it would sell. Yeah, I think Browning used to make a 45. I could be completely wrong about that, but yeah, I don't know why they don't. Well, I'm pretty sure that they did make one. And there again, that little 380, I don't know if they still make it or not. I've seen them. In fact, I think that Cabela's has them, if I remember right. And why they made it, I don't know. I mean, they thought that it was probably a novelty thing, and it's a cool little pistol. It's just that I'm not a fan of the 380. That's just my personal preference. 100-yard range in our backyard with 20 plates. I need to get some more plates myself. I've got a couple. One of my plate things that I've got, it's shot to pieces. It the big plate that I've got, or I say big plate, it's like a 1/3 IPSC or whatever. I've gone through several chains on it. I have broke chains like crazy because I get out and shoot rifles. It's rifle rated, and I've wore it out. I mean, I've hit that thing with 30-06 before, and more than one occasion I have shot it, and it's kind of funny. Hit the target and then it just go flying because it would break the chain. I'd like to have a little bit more of a range than what I've got here. I just haven't. I've got 100 yards, literally from about my back door down to my target is 100 yards. And then I got, all of my pistol stuff down there. But I could stretch out. If I really stretch it, I could get a few hundred yards across my property easily. If my property was flat, I could go several hundred yards, but, I got rolling hills and stuff like that. Yeah, it'd be nice if they brought it back. Why they ever stopped making them, and a lot of other companies, why they do a lot of things that they do. But Browning, yeah, it was a neat little 380. But I just, there again, my experience with 380 has never been positive. But yeah, around here, I don't know. Da, 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 da. Well, I don't know if I cut the chain or if it was just so much of an impact on the target, the chain just finally let go and said, that was it, I'm done. I think I probably cut it a time or two unintentionally, but most of the time when I broke it, I hit the target. But there again, that chain, it gets every time you hit that target, it gets a good hard jerk. And yeah, I think a time or two I probably cut it. I know one time I did when I was trying to sight something in, and it just went right through the chain. And I was way high, and obviously it went right through the chain. But there's been other times to where I hit the target. I mean, and it literally the target, it's hanging down like that. It would go vertical and then just drop, just to where it's obviously just snapped the chain. And I'd like to get my AKs back out. I'm hoping after the first of the year, I know there's a lot going on with suppressors. I hope that well, I know it's going away. I'd like to see that the stupid registration go away too, to where you can just go in, buy them on a 4473 and be done with it. We have several Brownings, 22, 380, and 9 millimeter. Browning makes some good guns. I mean, they have had some great guns. They're a very reputable manufacturer, in my opinion. But autocorrect, yep, I get it. Brownies, yep, that'll get you every time. But yeah, I'm hoping that after the first of the year that they do something. I know there's a lot of court cases going on right now involving suppressors because since the tax is no longer there, they basically lose any kind of justification for keeping the registration going. And I hope that it gets struck down. And there again, I'm hoping to where you can get suppressors, literally walk into the gun store, fill out your 4473, take them home. Because there's two that I want. I want one for 30 cal and I want one for 9 mil. 9 mil, you guys seen my MP5 or well Mac 5. Got to have one on that because Mac 5. And I want one for 308 because my 308s because then I can use it on my AK. I can use it on some of my others. I get my SFAR out and maybe do some more rifle videos, which I could do them anyways. It's just that the suppressor, man, I'm telling you, I got that one and it just makes it so nice. Is the FN X45 ACP worth the price? Short and quick. Depends on the price you find it for because I have seen variability in the price on those. But yes, for the most part, yes. Um, I don't have one, but if you like FN, the 45, I mean, it's well known. I mean, it's a reputable gun. But again, shop around because I've seen variation in the price on those things. Yeah, you got some little bit different features and stuff like that, but sometimes you can get a better deal on one in one store than what you can in another. So shop around. Well, we started putting our steel plates in used tires, and it holds the chains a little bit better. That's an idea. It hides the chains a little bit better. Yeah, I'm hoping they get rid of that registration for suppressors because man, it's nuts. It makes no sense whatsoever. It's a safety thing, really, if you think about it. Having a suppressor, it makes it quieter. It makes it enjoyable. The only thing I don't like is, the extra links, but yeah, what it is what it is. Autocorrect again. Is that what I'm saying there? David, very worth it. I love mine. Yeah, that's autocorrect. Yeah, suppressors. That one I've got for my ARs, that Turbo T3. Man, I love that thing. It's not gassy at all. Flow through. I mean, it is great. Had it on my CMMG recently, out shooting it, and it just works great. I've got it. I really like how it looks on my pistol, my AR pistol. I seen an upper. I almost wanted to get it, but where I got my suppressor at, they had an upper in there that they were selling. It had the, I guess you could say, not necessarily the integral suppressor on it, but you know how some folks do with their ARs, where the handguard extends over the suppressor. That looked great. And sometime, especially if they get rid of the shoot that registration, I think that would be something that I would like to do. I really like how it looks when you've got that hand guard extended over the front, over that suppressor with maybe just a little bit of it sticking out. It just looks cool. I mean, that's, part of the fun. I mean, there's a lot of cool stuff out there. But yeah, I'm hoping the registration goes away. The 45 tactical for just under nine, it's not bad. Not bad. The FN, there again, like I say, they've got a great reputation, but I've seen some variability in prices on them. And 45, man, 45 ACP. I love 45 ACP. 9 millimeter 45 ACP, 5.56, 308. Um, those are, well, 6.5. I guess you could throw it in there somewhere too. Those are probably my favorite round. NATO rounds basically are my favorite rounds. And you can usually find those when you can't find other things. Well, maybe 6.5. Like I remember during like when COVID hit, and at that time, I mean, you had a lot of stuff that got hard to find. And I remember that there were periods where the only thing I could find on the shelf was like 45 ACP. And so I bought 45 ACP. What gun is the best for survival? Which one can you get ammo for? Simple. Simple question. That's why I would have a 9 millimeter and a 45 ACP at a minimum. And the other round that I found some of, at least for a brief period of time, was 10 millimeter. For you guys up in Alaska, I know that's a common thing for you. Around here at that time, 10 millimeters sat on the shelf. You literally, one of the stores I go to, when you would walk in, about the only thing you would see would be 10 millimeter. Eventually, it got to the point you started getting more people getting 10 millimeters. Yeah, three suppressors. Yeah, have them dedicated. Yes, I completely agree. See, mine, I'll take it and move it. I've got different hub devices on my AR, so I'll just move it from one to the other, just whichever one I'm wanting to shoot. But yes, I agree. There's a couple more that I would like to have as well. In fact, I would very strongly consider getting a couple, just like what I've got, just for keeping on a couple of my guns. And I would have one on my CMMG, and then I would have one on my pistol, and those would be dedicated. You are very welcome, David. Hopefully it'll help you make kind of a choice or whatever. But yes, shop around, even compare prices online. And there's variability. The 45, you're not going to go wrong with the 45 ACP. The 6.5 is, well, I don't hunt with it or anything like that. Never have. It's fun to shoot because it is accurate. The 6.5 Creedmoor, I mean, that thing is a laser beam. And um, for longer range, you can get out there just very accurate shots with what I've seen from it. The two that I've got, I mean, it's like I want a bullet right there. I want one there. I want one there, and that's exactly where it goes. But again, I know some people hunt with them, and if you get the right ammo, I think you're probably fine. Like you're going to deer hunt or anything like that. But again, make sure you're using the right ammo. But it's a laser beam, in my opinion. The ammo price, it varies. I bought a whole, like a case of just the Hornady full metal jackets, and I don't remember how much it was. It was very affordable when I got it, but since then it has gone up like everything else. But 6.5, up in Alaska or something like that. I don't know. I mean, that's up to you. Uh, you are correct. When you take that suppressor off, it will change the zero, and that's another reason, yes, to have them dedicated. You ever had any problems with carbon locking on yours? I'm sure you probably take them off periodically and clean. I know mine, like after I get done shooting, I will pull it off of the hub device and then I'll clean the hub too. Just, spray it down with the cleaner just to try to help keep it from that happening. Because carbon locking, and I know I've got a wrench and stuff right there, but still, it's no fun. I like to be able to keep it to where I can just spin it off with my hands. I mean, it want to make sure it's on good because I don't want to get a ballast strike, but at the same time, when I get it locked down, I get done, I like to be able to spin it back off with my hands. Oh, no big deal. That's just me, personal preference. But yeah, it definitely will affect your zero when you taking them on and off. But I think one that I would definitely have dedicated, and at some point I may do in the future, especially if they get rid of that nonsense registration, is I'd like to get one of the uppers that has it covering the rail covering most of the suppressor. I like how that looks. I love how that looks. I've seen some CMMG set up like that were just golden. I mean, I loved them. We still got a few folks on here. We've been going. How long have we been talking now? Let me just sit here yakking. Let me look. About over an hour, something like that. Cool. Yeah, I'm hoping to get to where I have these announced a little more ahead of time. 6 glare, yeah, slightly after 800 yards, and that's stretching it. I mean, you're getting out to 800 yards. That's not bad. Around here, depending on where you're at, for me, my farm right now, the longest possible shot that I could make would be right at 800 yards. I don't do it because, and there again, this would be like if I would, because it would be going over to my neighbor's property. I'm not going to do that because it's actually through one of his cattle fields. But at 800 yards, there again, it's going through across a couple of farms from where I'm at. But for the most part, around me, you don't get much of that distance. But 800 yards on 6.5, the drop on that's not much, if I remember right. I'm sure you probably know more about that than I do as far as how much of a drop. But that's one of the beautiful things about that 6.5. That ballistics, for example, at 308, and I know this is exaggerated, you get more of an arc with like a 308 than what you do with that 6.5. Yeah. How is that? I'm curious about those new CMMG suppressors. I like CMMG. I bought parts, one of the builds that I've got has got CMMG parts in it, and I've seen those come out. I like them. I've not seen one in person. The place where I got mine has not had any, or at least the last time I was there, they didn't have any. But I would like to see one, get my hands on one too, and that might be what I get next. You never know, depending on the price. Some of the price out there on them, yeesh, or well, some suppressors. Yes, Yeah, I definitely love it the way that the suppressors are. That Turbo T3 that I've got, I love shooting with that suppressor. I mean, it's more comfortable shooting it. But yeah, the CMM I've seen some CMMGs. I think it was the Banshees where people had basically they had the handguard extending out over the suppressor to where you got like just a little bit of the suppressor sticking out, and they were still it was a very short package. Love how that looks. I mean, I love how that looks. I don't know what it is, but I just like how that looks. Yeah, my CMMG, the one that I got, was souvenir from the Smokies. We went down to the Smokies, walked into Bass Pro, looked at it. I'm like, I don't need this. I don't need this. And then I bought it. So I thought my wife was going to kill me. One of the very few times that she's ever said anything about me buying something like that. And even then, I mean, she didn't just come out with a hard no. She was just ready to go somewhere else and not expect me to spend that much money on day one of our vacation. But we had good hotel security that time. I remember I had it wrapped up in a couple of different bags just to try to get into the hotel room, just because, hide it and just kept it wrapped up and hid. And I was glad to get it home. And then pack everything up, shove it in first, and pile everything on top of it just to keep it buried. And I love that thing. I mean, it's cool. The color of it, I've got my, is it the, no, it's not the Athlon. I've got my Strike Eagle on it. It's what I've got sitting on it now, which is a great optic. I love that Strike Eagle. The Strike Eagle, I love, of course, Arkin, love Arkin scopes. Um, I've got an Athlon LPVO, one of my ARs. I just like an LPVO on an AR, personal preference. And the CMMG that's set up on it, that one by that LPVO, love it. The sling that I got on it is something cheap. I think I pay like 10, 15 bucks off of Amazon for that QD sling that I got. Nothing special whatsoever, but it works. I mean, you got to have a sling on a rifle. I've seen them and I've had different ones and I've got different ones that are a little more comfortable than what that one is, but it works. Go out to the river for long range. Around here, around me, years ago, there used to be a place probably about, I'd say about an hour from me, and they had, I want to say it was like 1,000 or 1,200 yard range. They may have had a little bit more. The place no longer exists. The property been sold off and developed since then, and you had to be a member before they would even let you go out there and shoot. And I never did join or anything like that. But you know, like you've got a rod and gun club, which I know one of the guys that runs it. They don't have anything long range. I think the longest range they got is like 100 yards, from where they're at. And they're real more pistol shooting than anything. They do have some rifle shooting. You get more people to go out there that will basically just go out there to line up their guns for deer season. And they have, or they used to, and I'm pretty sure they still do. They have like a monthly steel challenge, a monthly steel shoot that I keep saying that one of these years I'm going to go down to, but I just never have. Yeah, my wife gives me that look occasionally too. And my wife, on a few occasions, has been responsible for my financial stupidity. My AK, that Rack 47 that I got, I remember when we walked into the store, just looking around, had no intention of getting anything. And we were out shopping. And yeah, okay, we're going to go in somewhere. I'm going to look just because I like to look. We go back there, and I'd noticed it a few times and never really thought about anything. Like, yeah, it'd be nice. But then I had her with me, and next thing you know, she looked at me and she says, "You don't have one of those, do you?" And I'm like, "No, I don't. Why?" She says, "Well, that would make a nice video, don't you think?" And I'm like, "Woman, don't tempt me." And she's like, "I'm just saying it would make a nice video." And then, of course, the guy behind the counter, and it's a guy that I know because he's been in there forever. He started grinning real big. He's, "You want to see it?" And I'm like, "Oh, shoot. Okay." So he showed it to me, and then the next thing you know, it's in the safe behind me back here. But, anyways, that's just part of it. Frankfurt has a gun club here, but it's holy smoke, 300 a year. That's why I go to Bud's in Lexington. Yeah, there's a couple of places around, not far from me, that, well, I say not far. Probably the closest one that I know of. I don't know what the membership is like down that one here. I don't know what it costs. I don't think it's that much. In fact, I know it's not. But there's a couple of gun stores I know. Like the one where I've gotten my suppressor and stuff. Um, I know they've got like a year. They do like a daily and hourly, or I don't know how they do their memberships. I know they got like a yearly membership as well. But yeah, yeah, 300 a year. I say that too. That's a chunk of change. Around here, there was absolutely no way that somebody would be able to charge that because you got too much farmland. You got too many people here that own land that they go out and shoot, and it's very common, especially around here. Back over where we used to live at in our county, and again, it's a very rural area, and kind of a funny story where we used to live at. We had some neighbors that were transplants from California, and they got quite the culture shock. We had some other neighbors, big time deer hunters, as in the deer that they have or the deer around them all need to go to the cardiologist because they feed them so heavily. Those deer are FAT. I mean, they are huge. They are fat. And I mean, they've got feed plots everywhere. They put corn out for them year round. They put mineral out for them. They have got some hosses of deer over there. Anyways, our neighbors from California, were out there and had quite the culture shock because our other neighbors were out shooting and basically lining up, getting ready for deer season. And the California residents, let's just call him Farmer John because that's what I called him. And he actually called up to the sheriff's office and was talking about how that, these people are out here shooting. And up the sheriff's office, again, this is a very pro 2A place. They're like, okay, are they shooting at you? No, no, they're just shooting. And they're like, are they shooting at somebody else? No, they're just shooting. And okay, are they shooting across your property? No, they're not doing anything like that. And it's like, well, what's the problem? He's like, well, you mean you can shoot on your own property here? And they're like, yeah, you can. So that was kind of a culture shock for them. So, which ironically as well, sort of similar to that, one of the guys that comes in for the Laosa every year is retired from New Jersey. And he had sort of the same kind of culture shock when he come down here too. It was amazing to him that you could actually go and shoot on your own property. In fact, he bought a farm not too far from here when he retired. He actually bought it a few years before he retired, and he's talked about it to where he would go out and shoot. And it took him a while to get comfortable to be able to do that because he felt like he was doing something wrong just because of the crazy laws that were up there in New Jersey. Let's see here. A little bit of a delay, but yeah, my wife likes to double barrel shotguns. We picked up a double barrel. Ooh, Derringer 410. Nice. The Stoger 80 9, good, reliable. I've not heard any complaints about the Stogers. I looked at one and come close to getting it myself, but I didn't. I think you should probably be fine. But again, if it's going to be something you carry, put the round count through it. I tell you that with anything. But I've not heard any complaints about them. I think that they've got some good ergos on them too. They only come with one magazine. That's a negative. Hard to find any. Yeah, and you don't see a lot of various different ones as far as magazines. You'd probably have to order them online. Um, there's shops out there to where you could order them, different places like that to where you could order the magazines. Gun Mag probably, just a few different places to where but yeah, you'd have to order them, and that's a common thing everywhere. I mean, around here, if you're going to go to try to buy a magazine, most of the time you go to any of the shops, about the only kind of magazines you're going to find are going to be for Glock, the Smith and Wessons. You're going to see some SIGs. Um, Not many, but some, and just a few others. It's the only ones that I've ever seen, and that's around here. I mean, you get some oddballs every now and then, but it's rare. Every now and then, maybe some CZ, depending on where. I think if you went to Cabela's, I think they may have some like CZ mags. Don't think they've had any like even Canic mags. But yeah, that's kind of a negative for anything. But any time that if I buy a gun, if I need magazines, I just order them off the internet. And that's something I need to do is I could actually add some stuff like from some of the, I guess you could say the affiliates that I've got, put them on over on my website, um, for stuff like that. I just haven't done it. But yeah, if you want it, that's your choice. Just order you a couple of mags off the internet somewhere. That'd be the way to do it. And it's just like with the Echelon. Try to find an Echelon magazine around here. You're not going to do it. You can find all kinds of shops that sell the Echelon. You're not going to find any of those same shops that sell magazines for them. I have no idea why. But, I don't know if they're not selling enough of them or what. I actually talked to one of the guys at Exit Sites because I think that they've actually got like a three dot site now for echelons. And I've been waiting for them to come out with the big dots for them because if they come out with the big dots for them, I'm going to put them on there. But they're saying that they're waiting to see what the demand does. I don't think they've got the demand yet, which is understandable. If they're going to invest in the machining and all that, they got to be able to justify their costs. Terry, I went to the range yesterday, took my Taurus G3C and my Rock Island M206. Both haven't been shot for over a year. Both still shoot good. Good, good. Practice makes perfect. And the Taurus G3C, man, those guns are little tanks. Taurus, the G2s, the G3s. Man, I hardly, the only time that I've ever seen an issue with one of those in my range was shooter induced. I had one guy, he was new to shooting. His wife was scared to death. I actually ended up talking to her. And the deal was for him to buy that gun was that he had to buy a safe and he had to take the class, and that's why he showed up. And what he did basically is he rode the slide forward when he went the chamber around. He pulled it back, and instead of just letting it go, he rode it forward. It stopped on him. He wasn't sure what to do. It didn't go all the way close, so then he pulled it back again, and he caused a double feed. And then he froze and just panicked, and then went over and showed him how to clear it. But that's the only time I've ever seen a malfunction in a Taurus G2 or G3. I think the only other time, well, yeah, there was another time, and what it was is somebody didn't have their magazine seated right, and the magazine fell out. But things like that happen. Rock Island, yep. I've got the rock that I've got, that 1911 that I've got. It was actually my first 1911. It's a solid gun. And I know earlier in the discussion we were talking about MIM parts. The frame on that is basically a big MIM part is all it is. It's nothing wrong with the gun. It's a great gun. Shoots good. I mean, is it the most accurate? No. Is it the smoothest? No. But it shoots good. It's fun to shoot. And it also, if I ever decided to replace the sights, it doesn't have the like the A1 that I've got, those milled in sights. It's the TAC model or what they called the TAC model at that time. Nothing wrong with it. I think Rock Island really did a big service as far as getting 1911s in the hand of everyday shooters are more shooters. All right, guys. Anybody got anything else? We've been going now for hour and a half, something like that. We still got a couple folks in here. Just want to give everybody a chance. Anything you wanting to say prior to? Because I think here before much longer we're going to jump off. It's getting later and all that kind of fun stuff. And I guess tomorrow will be time to go back to work. At least for me. But guys, it has been fun. I think we got a little more activity tonight just because we announced it. I'll try to announce them a little further ahead of time. As far as being able to have a set time, my schedule is always crazy. It's always the hardest for me is to get some time pinned down. But when I can, when I get some time, then I'll try to put some notice out there. I know, like here coming up, I've got some classes coming up. I've got a couple of CPR classes I've got to do. I've got a concealed carry class. I'm trying to get some times nailed down with a couple of folks on that and all that kind of fun stuff. So that's usually my weekends. If I'm not working at work, I'm working at here or trying to do classes. So I don't know what sleep is anymore, hardly. But guys, I appreciate all of y'all being on here, and hopefully we will be able to announce it a little sooner the next time. And we're going to jump off. As always, guys, go over, get you some Blackout coffee. Use my code Boomstick, save you a little bit. We got something here from David. See what's David saying. If Taurus can make the G Series at a good price, makes you wonder why others don't. It's all about the money. That's to be honest with it. It's all about the money. They think that if somebody's going to buy them, they're going to charge it. I mean, that's all there is to it. You also, Terry, you also, like I say, I'm going to try to announce them ahead of time. That way, everybody has a little bit more notice. Well, guys, thanks each of you for being here. You guys can continue in the comments or whatever. And but I'm going to jump off of here. I got a couple other things I'm going to do tonight, and we will go from there. And we will see you next time. Subscribe, get you some coffee. Check out the links below. You can help support the channel from there. Blackout Coffee, guys. Use my code Boomstick, and